What's up?
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm great.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Was
Yes,
that you? That was you playing guitar just now?
it was. That was
Oh
me.
my gosh. I had no
Yes,
idea.
I know, right? See, it's just we're learn. We're learning. We're
Yeah.
learning. I started teaching French. I want to try to teach you some French at some point and see if you can
Oh,
acquire it. I
okay.
think I think you could, but
Okay.
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Okay.
Um, first, I appreciate you for being willing to do this, for being so gracious about accepting and the way that you conducted yourself throughout the process. It's not always that way, and I don't know if everybody who knows what the interview process is like knows how it can be a little challenging. So I just want to tell you I appreciate you for making it effortless for
Uh,
me.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your Candid. Thank you.
Yeah, I've had a lot of really awesome artists, and we've been able to talk kind of that backstage talk, that talk you have in studios and stuff like that that you don't really get to have in front of people, but
Mhm.
on this platform it's really cool. So people will be joining in, and they will be giving their little shout outs and everything. So feel free to acknowledge them. I wanted to start. Um, with the beginnings. I know, born in New Jersey, raised in LA.
Mhm.
I do want to tell you though, obviously you know this, but I'm from Cincinnati.
Okay.
I grew up in Cincinnati,
Mhm.
um, and your family's legacy is extensive when it comes to not just Black American music, but American music in general, period. And the popularity that comes along with it. And particularly in Cincinnati, when you grow up in Cincinnati, that's what you got to make sure you know before you get out of Cincinnati. That's something you got to understand about.
Right. Yeah.
So I can only imagine kind of what that's like. But I don't want to ask the typical question.
Mhm.
Um, because I understand that when you grow up around whatever your environment is, it's normal to you. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to ask you, as it relates to being an Isley and the history, and just speaking as a guitar player, um, please tell Pops, one of the reasons why I play electric for sure. But I wanted to find out from you, because you grew up around it, it was just normal. Was there ever a time? Do you recall a time when it became something of a big deal to somebody outside of family or something like that?
I think I realized like the magnitude sort of what I was around. I think I realized that when I was like in third or fourth grade, I realized like they're famous and realizing what that whole word and that world means. I learned it so yeah, at a fairly young age, I kind of got an idea of what, you know, the world I was kind of around. But yeah, it was, being in studio sessions was normal. Being like backstage watching them was normal for me. So yeah.
Was there ever a time where it was explained to you from an inside of the family thing? Like, hey, just so you know, blah blah blah. Even as it relates to maybe even pursuing music.
hmm Nothing was really explained directly, like verbally. Everything I learned and kind of picked up on was just very just observational.
Yeah,
And I learned a lot and still learning from watching them. So
that's
um,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Um, I heard I read about talent shows, and I'm a talent show alum as
Yeah.
well. I didn't grace plenty of stages and been changing in bathrooms and everything else
You're
all
right.
for the love of the talent show.
Yeah.
Um, do you remember? Can you recall any songs that used to be like go-tos or anything that you were singing in a talent show?
I mean, I did a different song every year. So I think the first time I performed in front of an audience, it was first grade. I did Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Uh,
I did second grade, I did uh the Shoop song, Waiting to Exhale. Like no
yes, look
noticed
at you.
that song and I was like 7, 8 years old. And third grade was like Colors of the Wind, Pocahontas. I can go through like
Oh,
each grade.
wow.
For the song, fourth grade, it was myself and three of my other friends. We were in Vogue.
What y'all do? Hold up.
Don't let go. What's it gonna be?
Oh,
Just grown folks' business that we had no business singing.
you said that was fourth grade?
Fourth grade, yeah. But that was like right when Set It Off came out, and that song was like a hit. It was like the biggest song out, so we had to.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. Um, so let's talk about uh, high school,
Mm,
um, because I imagine growing up in LA in general is just different because of proximity to certain aspects of the entertainment industry. So I can only imagine what it's like to go to a high school in a city like that that
mm.
has the performance arts are such a big part of it. My question to you was, what was the high school experience like? Was it in some way overshadowed by the performance element of it, or was it like the typical high school thing, or was everybody really competitive about really trying to make sure they were on the right path?
It was a little bit of everything, honestly. I mean, definitely had the normal, typical high school stuff. I think there were cliques, and there were, sometimes it was a popularity contest within the departments because there was a dance department, music, theater, visual arts. So definitely some aspects of normal high school. I mean, we didn't have a mascot, we didn't have sports, so that was kind of like the only thing missing per se. But uh, everybody, from what I remember, everybody was just really passionate about what they did, and
Yeah.
the arts was the foundation of it all. And so the um, we had the arts from 1 to 4. Everything before that was the fundamentals of math, history, whatever. Um, and so I wasn't crazy about getting out of school at 4. When I learned that I was going there and like figuring out or realizing how late school got out, I wasn't excited about that. But I really came to love my experience there and all of the teachers there that really like literally helped me to find my voice as a singer, and uh, it really helped to shape me as an artist. So I'm grateful for that.
What was that process like for you finding your voice in terms of how your teachers helped you to get there on your own? Because I think a lot of aspiring artists want to be able to have their own unique voice. They're managing influences of different sorts, family influences, school influences, their friends, what they listen to on the radio. So how was that? How did your teachers help you start that process of finding your voice?
I think it started with me. So once I figured out what I liked personally and what resonated with me the most, which um, jazz, I fell in love with jazz like towards the end of my ninth grade year. And I had heard the vocal jazz ensemble singing some stuff, and I was like, whatever it is they're singing, I have to sing that. It sounds so good. I want to learn it. And so that was the beginning of jazz for me. So once I found out that that was what I liked and what I wanted to learn, my teachers, just as they heard me sing and heard me grow, they just really encouraged me to just tap in and let go of stuff and open your eyes when you sing. Don't be afraid to look at the class and stuff like that, because I'm naturally a shy person. I think I'm a little better now, but um I so yeah, it started with me. But my teachers did a really great job at just encouraging and supporting me. One of the main teachers being her name is Pat Bass Blodgett, Miss B. So shout out to Miss B. The real MVP for that. So
Yeah. How do you deal with something like improvisation? Because jazz, there's so much about jazz that is about space
mhm.
and just being present in the moment, especially when you're playing with a crew or something like that. How have you been able to, I guess, manage certain theories as it relates to jazz, even going into college and studying jazz more intensely? Do you have you ever felt like you had to choose between the way you were given what information you were given and your own idea of what you think it should be, or has it been easy for you to learn but still be unique in your own way?
I had to figure out, like, once I got the educational part of jazz, I had to figure out what to pull from that and tie that into actually performing in that aspect of working with other players on stage or in the classroom, wherever I was. And but with improvisation, I mean, that just took time for me to really learn um, what that is and how I interpret it. And I just learned, I forgot who told me, but um, they were explaining, just pretend you're a horn, pretend you're a trumpet, and that's really the start of it, and just go from there and just study as many horn players as you can. And so I want to get back into studying solos and transcribing them because I did a lot of that in college.
Wow.
So I want to get back into that. That's what really helps me to just pick up on the fundamentals of improv and just getting better at that. Just studying, different horn players.
Wow, I can't imagine transcribing.
It's
Uh,
hard.
I believe it. I mean,
It's hard.
Jesus.
I had to transcribe a harmonica solo one time, and that was like just all over the place, notes sliding, like nothing was separated, and it's just I'm having to connect all the notes. I mean, that had to be the hardest transcription I ever did.
How long did it take?
Uh, I mean, it took a night because I had to turn it in the next day, but
Oh my gosh.
it was like how I don't know. I don't know how I did it, but I did.
That's
It was
amazing.
hard.
Yeah. Do most people, would you say most people um, pursuing music on the collegiate level in LA are just kind of biding their time until an opportunity comes, or is there an intention to graduate and finish?
You know what? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know for me, I I never planned on, being an ethnomusicologist. That was my major. I always knew, the study of world music, so I had to learn literally everything from around the world. But I always knew what I wanted to do once I graduated. I always knew that I wanted to be a recording artist and um, to create and write. I never planned to produce my music, so I thought that was interesting having to take that on.
Yeah.
Actually, my mom's idea, which I will always be grateful for. So I'm glad to have that kind of under my belt and still learning, of course, still figuring out what I can improve and become better at. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about that a little bit, because I think your story as it relates to production is very unique and also very needed, especially with the amount of artists that are coming out every day. It's a lot easier to get your music out there. But I wanted to ask you about that first project, Love Art Memoir, about the production side of things. You said your mom encouraged you to do that. Was there a situation where you felt like you didn't have the music? Did you not have the music around you at the time, or what was it that made her? I know you can't speak for her, but
hmm Well, so I was working with like two or three producers, and this was, throughout college, I was working with a handful of producers, and I wanted music to share. I wanted to, put stuff out, and people started asking, "Hey, do you have something I can listen to?" And I never had anything, and I was always waiting on schedules to coincide and things to work out that way, and it never did, and then before I knew it, I graduated and I still had nothing to share or post whatever. I think Twitter had like just kind of started. Instagram, this was before Instagram, all of that. So I am a huge Jay Dilla fan, so I had this idea to yes, so I had this idea to write to most of the tracks from Donuts and kind of make like a mixtape sort of thing, because that was like 2009 when I graduated from college. That was like, the mixtape era. There was a lot of stuff dropping, And so that was my idea, and I told my mom, and she had worked in music licensing for like 20 years, so she knows the ins and outs of all that fun stuff. And she said, well, you don't want anybody coming after you, and this is not your original material, so you just want to be careful. And she was like, well, why don't you produce your own music? And when she said it, I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I don't know how to. The first thing I thought was, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. And I just didn't know where to start. But she helped me invest in Pro Tools, Logic, and interface speakers, a good quality mic, and that was the beginning of it for me. The end of 2009 was when I kind of started piecing together ideas that I'd had, and it took me 3 years from the time I started piecing stuff together to when I released the Love Art Memoirs. And I went through a lot of changes, and some songs have 5, 6 different versions. The song FDA almost did not even make it on there.
Wow.
I was just really in my head about everything, and just, nervous and all of that, and what are people going to think? And I'm glad that I just decided to, let it breathe and put it out.
Yeah, me too. First, let me just say, being from the Midwest, Slum Village, J Dilla, that
Yeah.
is like near and dear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't even know there was a while. Fantastic 2.0, is it 2.0,
I believe
2.10,
I
something
believe
like that.
yeah.
That record, that album, oh my gosh, with climax and players and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they have an instrument. They have a whole instrumental album of all, like pretty much all those records on the
I think I've
instruments.
seen that. Yeah. What
Yes.
made me, and what's crazy is I bought the what is it, the Slum Village Trinity album
Yeah.
with Tainted Love on there.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to, or kind of like my introduction to Jay Dilla. But then later on, after that in college, I found Two Can Win, and
Mm.
I just from there I just went into a black hole of Dilla, and that was a lot of, or most of what I listened to through college. And then
Yes.
I come to find like, oh, he did this Tribe, he did this Busted. So I was just really reintroduced to him, and that just I was in love. I was in love.
Wow. What? Give me some of your other favorite producers if you have any.
Timbaland, Missy and Timbaland. I have been obsessed with them since I was 7, 8 years old. Ever since Pony and One in a Million. Uh, Neptunes. Um, I mean Quincy, of
Oh,
course.
yeah, of course.
Um, yeah, but I'd have to say definitely Timbaland and Missy are in the Neptunes, really
Yeah.
between the two teams.
Wow. When it comes to producing, because I produce as well, and I'm always like, you put your producer hat on,
Mm.
and the producer hat is kind of like driving, but then you might get to a point in whatever you're making where, as a vocalist or as a writer, you start to feel the connection to the music. Do you stop at that point, or do you just say, no, I'm not gonna sing or write until I get it to a certain point in the production process?
It depends. I feel like I've went ahead and just recorded vocals without stuff being necessarily finished.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just depends. And it's interesting because I've been asked about like my process, and I honestly don't have one.
Hmm.
Like creating, I don't have any kind of order of things. So I mean, it literally varies from every song. So sometimes, a whole track will be finished, and then I'll go, and then sometimes it'll be a bass line, and that's
Yeah.
it. And
Well,
then I piece around it. So.
well, let me ask you. I do want to say, shout out to Love Zone and Brian Michael Cox.
Yeah, B Cox.
B Cox, um, into orbit. There's like always this moment in every Love Zone. It'll be like 3 in the morning or 4:30 or something crazy, and then boom, he'll drop into orbit.
Oh
And
man.
it's like everybody be like, oh yeah, shout out to
Oh,
Love
that's
Zone. There's
crazy.
some Love Zoners in here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you are steady. You are steady on that in that rotation on Love Zone, like for
Wow.
real,
Shout
for
out
real.
to B Cox. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the process for that song since it varies. Do you remember what that was like?
Ooh. So this was I still had GarageBand. This was before I got a hold of Logic. But Marsha Ambrosius had dropped a mixtape, and there was a song on there, and it was just so vibey and moody and romantic, but like subtle. And I just remembered hearing it, and I was like, I want to make something like this, like that's subtle, but it's like it's moody. And it's just something that feels good. And I just went from there. I don't remember like what came to me first in terms of ideas, but I don't know if it was the chorus first, but um, yeah, it was just between Marsha and me sitting at GarageBand figuring stuff out. So that was late 2009.
Gotcha. Wow. Would you say as a songwriter, your growth as a songwriter has kind of been a mixture of what you've studied and what you've also just listened to and absorbed as well?
Definitely. And what what I've experienced growing up and becoming a woman and all that fun stuff. And
Yes.
so definitely. And then just I've tapped into stuff outside of me, stories that I've heard, other people, what other people have dealt with, and just finding the commonalities and just being reminded that, we're not alone in what we feel when we feel certain things. So
Yeah. Um, do you have a spirit instrument? Like an instrument that it could just be that by itself and you're just always gonna be moved by it or, to be creative or
strings,
yeah.
strings. Like I live for a string section. I live for a string section. I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't know. I have no words. Strings. I'm obsessed.
Oh my gosh. Um, yo, I think it's awesome. Like you said, you got started on Logic and Pro Tools. Like that's you jump right on in there.
And
Um,
I have Pro Tools, but I don't know how to use it yet. I have it. I've been using Logic for everything, honestly.
me
So
too. Me too. I rock with you. Yeah.
I'm gonna learn how to use it though.
Yeah, I have,
That's
they
my
do
goal.
the subscription thing now where you can get a subscription to Pro Tools. You don't have to buy it like outright. So I have the subscription but I've been using Logic for so long. That learning curve when you get in a new program, you're like,
Right.
I can't even create a new track. Like it'd
Yeah.
be like that.
Yeah. If you know something, if it's not broke, you're good.
Yeah. Um, what advice would you give to a young woman who's aspiring to be in more put herself in position to be in more control of kind of the not the creative process but at least be knowledgeable. I mean, in this industry you can easily be marginalized by what it is you don't know or a
Mhm.
skill you might not have or a resource, the lack thereof of a resource. So it's like to find an artist that's also a producer is rare in and of itself, but when you go from gender from male to female it's even more rare,
Mhm.
especially so early. um, how would you what advice would you give to someone who is aspiring? They may sing but they kind of still kind of are particular about the music that they want to sing over and have considered production.
I would say just research. Because that's honestly what I do and still do, and I think that's important for artists to just continue to do research, and because things are ever changing really. So I think starting with the artists that you love and delving into as much footage, there's behind the scenes footage on YouTube, there's all kinds of stuff. So I think starting with the artists that you love and respect, and that you they might serve as the model, their career might serve as the model for what it is that you want to do. It just I would say start there and just research as much stuff as you can, and but also like you said, to be as clear and as specific about what it is that you want, out of your career, and what it is that you want to do, and just make your goals as plainly as possible.
Nice. um, So let's switch gears a little bit to synesthesia. Is that what it's called?
Synesthesia. Yeah,
That, did I pronounce it right? Okay.
I think
So
yeah. I think that's
we're just gonna pray that goes over well
the thing
with
where
the
you see color.
congregation. Yes. So there are, I'm sure, some people out there that might not know what that is from the, you know, clinical terminology or whatever. My first exposure to it was I went through a huge Jimi Hendrix phase where I just was locked in on nothing but Jimi Hendrix. And
Mm-hmm.
for those that don't know, Jimi Hendrix has a legacy that has that there's some intertwinement with your family's legacy as well, which I thought was so cool. You know what I mean? But that's the first time I ever heard about it. And I would like you to, in layman's terms, explain to those people out there what it is. And then I got a couple questions about it afterwards.
Okay, so it's there's some sort of connection between, and it varies. I know there was like a mathematician, and I don't remember which one, who associated colors with numbers. So for me, I associate colors with notes, with musical notes and chords. And it's been that way for me ever since I was little. And I actually think my daughter has it too, which is interesting. So, and she has perfect pitch. She's almost 4 and just already a genius. But but yes, I associate notes and chords with colors, and the colors are always constant. It's never like, oh, now this key is blue. Like, no, this color is, or this note is always this color, and so.
Interesting. That's so, I think it's so cool. Um, I wanted to ask you, um, is there ever a time, well, what happens when you might hear a chord arrangement that isn't so gangster? Does it make like the color black come up or polka dots or like eh?
No, I've never heard that. And it's interesting because um I think for me there's a gray sometimes.
Oh,
There's no black for me, there's no white, there's no brown. Um which I'm not sure why that is, but I haven't heard anything that's like plaid or something. Okay.
flag. Yo,
I hope I don't hear anything like that. No, just
that would be
mainly like the primary colors, and some stuff for me like F minor can be like a fuchsia almost. Um,
that's amazing. That's amazing. So when it comes to when it comes to the creative process with that, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. When you start, let's say you start and you're playing keys or you're playing whatever it is,
mhm.
um, can you redirect how you want things to go if you kind of starting to go down a path and you're like, that's not really the vibe I'm in. I want it to be more of this vibe. Is it easy for you to redirect creatively?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever done that based on colors.
Okay,
I think colors is just kind of like a supplementary kind of thing. Like I happen to, envision this when I hear it, but I don't necessarily use that to build around.
got you.
Um, yeah, I don't think I've ever actually done that. Um, I go off of just I go off of vibe and just how it feels,
You
and how,
seem very vibey. Yes,
yeah. So I go off of just the sound of it, not necessarily like the colors that I see.
understood.
So.
Understood. Um, it's perfect pitch. A pro, or I mean, obviously it's a pro, but I remember singing classical when I was growing up, and a couple of classmates of mine had perfect pitch, and it's like
Hmm.
we would start a piece
Hmm.
on pitch, and then by the end, you know, our teacher was always trying to show us that we either went a little up or a little down. And they'd be like, "Come here, so and so,
Yeah,
give me
yeah.
a C."
Uh, oh my gosh, it's funny. That was I remember there was this we were in concert choir, so singing all the classical stuff, and we were at a convention. And this one piece that like literally rested in my hands because I had to start it off, and I had to start off. I mean, but I wasn't nervous, so to speak, but I had to go. Nothing's here. Make sure you stay here. But so, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Wait, what was the question again? I'm just
it's just kind of what was it like, and you're really explaining it. I can imagine how annoying it could potentially be. Um,
um,
or does it play when you're does perfect pitch play into your hearing of oh it does into your
yeah,
hearing of notes from other people as well, right?
yeah, but and it's not annoying per se, but and what was funny is people would always turn and look at me like, "Are you okay? Like, you good? Is this annoying?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine. I promise." So it wasn't annoying, but it like struck a nerve sometimes.
Yeah,
Like more so if an instrument was out of tune rather than somebody's vocals like that. I mean, that's we're human, so.
yeah.
Um, but no, it wasn't ever really annoying per se, but like I would, sometimes I could twinge and I'm like, oh, that's not quite it. Mm-mm.
Yo, I can only imagine, man. Um, I was gonna ask you about your projects when you
Mm.
think about your body of work. Um, when you think about dreams in analog, when you think about luxury and so on and so forth, what about you has changed as an artist?
Um, I guess in simplest terms, the fact that I'm a mom now has really changed everything for me. Um, as a woman, I'm just more intentional about my time, the time that I give to myself. I'm more intentional about my thoughts and my mental health, which I'm glad to see that that is the importance of that is being highlighted and expressed so much. Yeah, just becoming a mom has really tested and forced me to just be more patient with everything.
Yeah,
So that's really that in turn has really shaped how I create and how I hear things and um, sometimes it's like leave stuff alone. It's okay. Like things always get worked out, and it's just a lot of that has come from just me being a mom and just dealing with being a mom and in daily life and all of that brings. So
that's awesome. My mental health is just so important, especially like when you're in the performing arts, because it takes a certain amount of guts to get on stage and put yourself out there to begin with,
yeah, yeah,
especially like imagine being on stage. I always used to tell people it was easier for me to sing for a big crowd of people than it was for like one person or two people.
right,
Because
same.
you're like, oh, you're
And
looking at them like, oh,
and you know what? To this day, I'm like, I don't know what it is. I'm nervous singing like for my mom, just herself. If she's in a room with a bunch of people, like you said, if it's a bunch of people, I'm cool. If it's just her, or if it's just like two or three people, and they ask me to sing something, I'm like, eh, what do I do? Um,
I'm just thinking about how you said, you're naturally shy and everything like that. I'm like, damn, I remember singing where I used to be singing, looking up at the ceiling, or just trying to find a focal point or something.
Wait a minute. I used to sing. I think there was a couple times like at family gatherings where I wanted to sing, but I didn't want them to look at me. So I would stand like behind the couch or like turn. This is like I'm like 4 or 5 years old, and I would like turn my back to them or like stand
Oh,
behind the furniture.
nobody look at me. Um,
I want to sing, but just don't look, okay?
Yo, oh man. Um, I've been vibing out to a bunch of different records about him. I love about him.
Thank
Gone is my jam.
you. Thank
That's I hear the Dilla and I hear the Dilla vibes, just the boom bap feel to it. I love it so much.
Thank you. But you know what? That's Jack. That's Jack Dine.
Really?
That's Jack Dine production.
Okay. Look,
Yeah,
I was going to ask you about Jack as well. How did that not collaboration, but how did the chemistry develop and everything like that?
we literally connected through Instagram, and just like, what is this, like last May? And I went and met him, and we created what became Wait from our Wilton project. And we liked the energy and how things flowed. And we had a standing appointment. Maybe 2 times a week I would come in, and we would just, crank stuff out. And eventually we were like, we should put a project together.
Love it.
Let's go. So that was Wilton. And um we've really developed a sense of trust and honesty between each other, and not afraid to express if we like or don't like certain things. And so I think that's really important. And I don't know what it is, but I write really fast when he's in the same room. So yeah, it's just the energy and the chemistry that's, I think, just been naturally there from jump. I'm really grateful for that. So, but yeah, Gone and Wilton and Good and Plenty, that's all Jack Dines production.
That's what's up. Um, how is it for you when it comes to studio sessions? Let's say if you're I don't know how frequent you might be in a room with somebody for the first time, or if you just kind of keep it close to the people who you've always been working with or whatever. But how is it when you're trying to because you're a vibe person? How is it when you're getting into the studio? Let's say with a producer you might not have worked with before.
Um, I haven't had an experience like that in a while, honestly.
Wow,
But I remember, because I've just, been working with the same producers and musicians, thankfully. But I remember like my college years when I was doing more so of that, and just always working with new people. Um, I was often like impatient. And I think just, and me being younger too, and not really knowing, like a session is not going to jump off like right away, and that's okay. So, but I didn't know that, and just I think I was just really impatient too, and just anxious to want to get started and start working, right when I walk in. So I don't know if that was a good or bad thing, but
yeah,
I've come to learn how, just sessions flow organically, and things don't, just being in a room with other people. We're people first and foremost, and then creators and whatnot, secondly. So just I've gotten used to that. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to work with the same producers and musicians that I've admired and respected for years. So
that's really, really, listen, you know, and it's evident that there's a chemistry and a synergy that comes across in the material. Everything jams. I'm a harsh critic. I'm a hater. Uh, of anything that's not excellent.
mm,
So I can definitely understand because it takes a while to gel. Things take a
yeah,
while to gel. So it's like bouncing around can be hit or miss so much, you know what I mean? But
mm,
so much of that honesty and conversation, I guess, that comes across in the music happens when you're comfortable with the people you're working with.
right. And just talking, not having to be in a space of working every second. So, but yeah, that's really important. That
Yeah.
honesty and that good energy. That's really important.
Tell me what it was like in the collaboration. Well, I know you've collaborated with a lot of amazing people. Um, you know, I wanted to ask you about Kendrick and These Walls. Um, I mean, that album was a very, very much so a jolt to the music industry in a positive way. And I think it changed the paradigm as it relates to what we look at as a masterpiece when it comes to a body of work, especially in the rap and hip hop genre. But
Mhm.
tell me, that's one of my jams off of that album. So I just wanted to get any backstory that you may have about your involvement and the record itself.
So that was 2014, like the summer, and Terrace Martin actually hit me and was like, Kendrick needs a singer. Um, are you available? And I'm like, yeah, where do I need to go? So he sent me the information, and I pulled up, and it was literally Kendrick and Ali, his engineer, and that was it. It was just him in the room, and I didn't know what to expect. But yeah, Kendrick was just, um, extremely humble and gracious and just really kind. And, just explained to me, okay, you sing this part. And it was, it was quick. And I went in there and sang, and that was it. So
I
it was
love
great.
it.
It was great.
Yes, great, great songs, jamming. Um, I was gonna also ask you about the newest record that I've heard, the Good and Plenty record.
Hmm.
Um, I I'm fans of everybody that's on that record, but the collaborations I think that are occurring right now in music are just really good. You know, when you hear like a Kalani and Aaron Ray together, and then you hear
Yeah.
you all together, and it's just like the collaborations, or even an India Shawn and an Anderson Paak or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just, it's good collaborations that are going on. Are they always pretty much normally organic for you when you're involved?
Yeah, definitely. And with Good and Plenty specifically, I just remember Masego had hit me and had expressed wanting to do something with me and Jack. And so he came through. This was like the last week of January this year.
Okay.
And from start to finish, it took like 3, 4 hours. We weren't there any longer than that. And yeah, it was just very natural and things flowed. I wrote my part in maybe 2 minutes, maybe less. And I think Masego had a hand in the production as well, and you know, brought out the sax and all of that. And yeah, it was just great. It was just great energy and just happened in a really short amount of time. So
When it comes to these days, meaning kind of the times that we've been living in as it relates to being kind of at bay,
mhm.
um, from a music community perspective, what have you um, been doing to stay creative? Has being creative been a heavy thing that's on your mind, or what has creativity looked like during let's say the last 6 months?
Creativity has been random. I think I'm extremely grateful be as to have been as busy and productive in doing what I'm passionate about, especially during these times. I'm grateful to have, the recording setup that I have, and to have access to producers and musicians that do, and to be able to go back and forth and collaborate, virtually. Um, but creativity has been random, and I haven't pressed myself to just be productive at all times because this is just a weird time for everyone. So just not forcing anything and just focusing on taking care of myself, and that's the primary thing, always. But again, especially right now, just being adamant about like making sure I'm good. Because if I'm good, I have to make sure I'm good so that my child is good. You know what I mean? So that's the focus for me. But I definitely have moments where I sit and just I write my journal and stuff comes from there, and um, I listen to loops and ideas that have been sent, and um, so it's random.
What do you do when you're you know not being creative or not being musical? Like, what types of movies do you like? I'm trying to think of her.
You said what types of movies?
Yeah.
Um, I like. You know what? I don't know. I don't have like a set category of anything because I like my favorite movie honestly is The Godfather, but I like comedies and romances. But right now I am watching Breaking Bad, and I know I'm like years late, but that's what I'm into Breaking Bad right now. So I'm on the last season of that. Um,
Did you just kind of binge all of it, or it's just been a every week thing? You kind of just
I started, it was kind of slow when I started watching it maybe like a month ago. And just, if you know the show or if you don't, it's chill more so like in the beginning, and then it's dramatically worse like very quickly. So I just had to, I just got addicted to watching it and finding out what happens next. So I'm on the last part of it. So
Wow. Yeah, I missed the Breaking Bad train, and I missed
me,
the Game of Thrones train too.
I'm sure I'll be into that like 10 years from now. I'm very
Right. Like, yo, have you ever seen Game of Thrones? It's 2030, but yeah,
uh, yeah, super late. It's cool though. We'll get to it.
yeah,
We'll get to
yeah. Are you in the context of working on things, are you do you have you even thought about creating a new body of work, or is it just cool to just put singles out there to keep people, uh just vibing, with you? What's your take right now as it relates to creating some, I mean, new material, or let's say a new project, if you
it.
will?
Um, right now I'm open. I'm open to just sharing as I create. And I used to have the mindset of like I have to have a whole body of work to put out. And I think, the times have changed, and I think what's important is just maintaining the connection to people who listen to and support my music. And so yeah, I'm open to singles. But I am definitely I'm piecing stuff together for as far as bodies of work and collectives. So slowly but surely things are coming together. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, I'm open to
Yeah,
sure. So
I just can imagine you with your setup, like, when a creative person has a setup, it's literally like freedom. I can't even describe it. Especially when you learn how to use equipment to record yourself,
right.
and you
Yeah.
can make it sound good.
Hmm.
You put a singer in that type of situation, or a writer in that type of situation, it is like you're not going to hear from her for a while.
Right, right. Sky's the limit. And um all of my up until Wilton, everything that I've released has been my setup just in the corner of my room sometimes, but I've had to like change some or I've had to change the setup sometimes. I think one of the songs I recorded on Dreams and Analog like in the closet because there was too much noise outside. So I just made do with whatever I had, however I could. But yeah, I'm really grateful to have these tools, and that's important. And I'm all for DIY. I'm all for like if you have the passion and the idea and the vision, and you have a means to get a hold of the resources, like do it. Like take it up, whatever it is. Like
Yeah. Would you say you're more like a indie minded type of person as it relates to, for everybody out there, as it relates to indie versus major when it comes to processes or distribution channels or whatever? Do you feel more indie spirit, like is your spirit more aligned with the indie artist or indie label or that type of thing mentality, or do you see yourself traversing those deeper waters?
um I mean I am all for independent and figuring it out, on your own, however you can. That's amazing if you can do that. Um, and I've been grateful to do that, but I'm not set. I'm not set on, if
Okay.
there is, if an opportunity presents itself and, to where I go another route or, go the major route, then, I would do that. I think, whatever's in the best interest of my career and just making sure I stay connected to the people that support and listen to my stuff. So
Nice. I
yeah,
love it. I love it. I wanted to thank you uh, again for
thank
joining me. I'm
you,
going to give you the last word, but I just wanted to say before I give you the last word, thanks. I
thank you,
appreciate you.
thank you.
Appreciate your transparency, your spirit, your vibe. Everybody out there does as well. Tonight's a Thursday, so I'm sure that Into Orbit is going to be playing, or one of many other joints will be playing tonight. tonight/tomorrow in Love Zone. So it's gonna hit different a little bit now. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to just address everybody that's out there. There's all these hearts and fireballs and fireworks shooting, through my phone. So they want to hear from you to them. I'm going to step out of the way for a second.
Oh, thank you so much to everyone who has tuned in. Thank you, Cameron, for having me. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And, in these times, especially now, just staying connected however we can and encouraging each other, empowering each other. Um, Thank you so much to everyone who's watching. And yeah, I really appreciate the love and support. Thank you.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, cool. Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna do a guitar video, play some guitars or something, and post it. So I'll make sure I make sure it's good and I'm in tune first, and
Absolutely.
then you'd be like, "Oh, dog, he was sharp."
Never, never.
No, but in all seriousness, I appreciate you once again for tuning in. I usually take a couple of snippets and post it, kind of like a recap type of thing. So
Mhm.
once again, you got a lot of fans out there. I'm included. I
Thank
love what
you.
you do. I love your artistry, and
Thank you
just
so much.
keep inspiring us and helping us get through this time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you
All
so much.
right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.